Hello, this is Ted Argyle from Adrenalin Martial Arts Centre, and welcome to the fourth of our 30 videos where I talk about the 30 lessons that I've learnt as a full-time martial artist, a full-time martial arts instructor, and as a business owner for the last 20 years. Today we're filming from inside a shipping container which has got some of our storage in it, so that's an interesting location. Again, I'm trying to find somewhere different each day. I apologise for my clothing. My wife told me off because it looks like I've got bird shit or something on my shoulder, but I'm doing some landscaping stuff outside, so that's why I've got this dirty clothes on. But what I wanted to talk about today was something I'm really passionate about, which is martial arts is a marathon, not a sprint. Depending on who I'm talking to, of course. If I'm talking to a competitive athlete, so someone who's let's assume they're a boxer who's competing, a kickboxer, an MMA practitioner, or a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu exponent who's competing on a regular basis, then it's all about intensity. If you expect to be competitive on any level, you really need to train to an appropriate level, and that level is usually to a high threshold, meaning you're going to train very intensely if you're going to be competitive. Because if you're not, your opponent will be. And it's the biggest shock in the world, believe me, because I've been there. It's the biggest shock in the world if you feel underprepared for a combat sport encounter. But for 99% of the martial arts population who doesn't compete on any level, then it's really not necessary to train at that intense level. There can be periods within your training where you do ramp up the intensity, but if you do, there needs to be a period of rest afterwards. Not complete stopping, of course, but certainly a much more gentle approach to your training. That's, of course, if you're a competitive athlete. So if you're a competitive athlete, there needs to be bursts of intensity and then rest, bursts of intensity and then rest. And that has to be timed perfectly depending on the competition you're involved in and the duration between fights. But for the average person who doesn't compete, you can still train the same way, so you can have intense periods within your training. But as a general rule, the longer you choose to train for, the more moderate your pace needs to be. Meaning, I've been at martial arts now for 28 years, and there's no way that I could sustain a high threshold, high intensity work rate for a 28-year period. I would have fallen apart by now. Because I've had friends who have done that. They've been competitive athletes in the martial arts world and trained in a ridiculous intense fashion, been very successful in competition, but the result is injuries. And I sustained an injury from intense exercise in my youth. Tore the cartilage in my right knee. And every time I train intense from now on, my knee says, hang on a second, you can't be doing that. You need to settle down a little bit. So for me, my goals are different now from what they were when I first started. When I first started in the martial arts, like most people, I wanted to be like Bruce Lee. So I would read magazine articles about Bruce Lee training 5, 6, 10 hours a day. So of course I tried to do the same thing. And what happens? My knee blew out. And I've met lots of people in the martial arts world and have people who used to be in the martial arts world who have experienced the same result of intensive exercise. Now there are some genetic freaks who can train an intense level for most of their life and with no real consequence. But most people, most average people, and I consider myself a very average person, average athletic ability and so on, average genetics, I know that if I push myself too hard, that has a detrimental effect to my physical health. Over the past 20 years of having a full-time school, I've seen countless people come into the school who come in, they're very excited, they train to an incredibly intense level, but they only usually last 6 to 12 months, and then they're done. And all of that hard work has been for what? So they can say they used to train hard and they used to be good. Martial arts is, if it becomes part of your lifestyle, it's a long-term gig. And if you're going to be doing it long-term, any more than a couple of years, you really need to look after yourself. Otherwise, you'll either wind up being sick of it or you'll wind up injuring yourself. So my tip for longevity in the martial arts is to pace yourself. Think of it as a marathon, not a race. That has to be in conjunction, of course, with sensible training, with safe training, and with good nutrition. And we'll talk about those in future videos. So thanks for checking in, and I'll chat to you guys tomorrow. Thank you.